I asked for the best gym owners in the world to give me their best tips on keeping their clients around and keeping their churn down. Here's what they said. P.S. You're not going to want to miss number 4. This guy built his gym to over $100K a month before starting any external marketing at all. You're going to fucking love it. Studies show that it can cost 5 to 7 times more to get a new customer than it costs you to keep a current customer. And the truth is, I talk to dozens of gym owners every single week. We've got hundreds of gym owners in our current client community. And the reality is, so many folks come to us playing with a leaky bucket. They think they've got a marketing problem, they need more leads, more sales, etc. But the reality is they have a leaky bucket and realistically kind of a shitty service that is causing them to not be able to go out and profitably acquire customers because they can't keep their current clients around long enough. It's a huge problem. We're going to show you how to fix it in this video, right? Because what solving your churn does, what fixing your retention does, is it allows you to increase arguably the most important number in your business that's not profit, right? And that's lifetime value. And it's actually kind of a leading indicator. If you fix your LTV, you fix that lifetime value of a customer, your profit is going to skyrocket as well. So you fix the most important number by solving maybe the most important leading indicator number. So your lifetime value is essentially what is your client worth to you over their lifetime as a customer, as a part of your business, right? So if you run a boot campy business and they pay $200 a month and they pay for 10 months, the lifetime value of that customer is 200 times 10. That's $2,000, right, for that customer. And so the ways that you manipulate your lifetime value, number 1, you can manipulate what they pay, right? Changing your prices. If you charge more, that can sometimes lead to a higher LTV for that customer. Number 2, how long they stick around, right? So in the gym business, how many months are they staying for before they cancel? Number 3, how many times they buy. So if you have a supplement program or upsells or ancillary programs or internal challenges, things of that nature, that means they're buying more from you. That's going to increase your LTV. And then number 4, how many new customers they create. So for every new customer you get, how many referrals are you getting from that particular customer? Those 4 things will increase your lifetime value. We're going to talk about number 2, how long they stay. And then as an ancillary benefit, by fixing how long people stay and how great your service is, you're going to get more people to refer, which will drive up your LTV with number 4. Now, if you want help on increasing your sales, increasing your prices, and be able to do that without really crazy high anxiety, high pressure sales, we've got a free sales training for you. Hit me up in the comments. I'll give you access to it on the house. But for now, let's focus on that retention. So Dan Kennedy, he may be the marketing goat. He is in my mind. He says the biggest advantage any business can have is to be able to spend more than their competition to acquire a customer. How do you get your churn percentage? You basically take your members lost at the end of the period, divide that by your members that you started with at the beginning of the period. That's going to give you your monthly churn percentage. So if you had 10 members leave in August, you divide that by the 100 members that you had at the beginning of August, you now have your 10% churn. There you go. Now, let's say you're like most of our clients and you have a major small group component in your gym. Maybe you're doing small group training, semi-private. We're going to use a conservative price of $300 a month. Let's say you have 15% churn, which again, depending on where you get your data from, is kind of an industry average. It's not our clients' average, but it's kind of an industry average. If you lose 15% of your clients every month and you charge $300 a month, you actually end up, conveniently enough, with that same $2,000 number as your estimated LTV. But if you take that churn percentage and you drop it down to our client standard of 3% churn, so 300 divided by 0.03, you end up with an LTV, an estimated LTV of 10K. So you've taken your LTV from $2,000 at the industry average churn to $10,000. How much more can you spend comfortably to acquire a customer if you know that your clients are worth $10,000 instead of $2,000? Probably a lot stinking more, which is why churn is such a huge stinking deal and a lot of times is a bigger problem for you and your business than your marketing. So quick question before we get into all the fun tactical stuff. Should you even be worrying about this? So my marker for that is essentially if your churn is already below 5% on a monthly basis, odds are pretty good that your retention, your service, etc., is not the biggest bottleneck in your business, right? Your LTV is probably nice and healthy at sub 5%. Again, unless you're charging some really, really heinously low rate. If your churn is below 5%, then odds are pretty good that your churn is not the biggest problem and you should not be focusing on this, and you could probably be spending your time doing something more productive than this video. If that's the case, but you hopped on here anyway, hit that subscribe button, give us a little comment, and let us know what is the biggest bottleneck so we can build some content for you that'll help you solve whatever that problem is. That said, if your churn is above that 3 to 5% mark, this is going to be where you want to stay. So here's some of the overall biggest notes that I see, some of the biggest mess ups, screw ups that I see gym owners make in terms of screwing up their churn and screwing up their service and screwing up their business in general. They make it more about them than they make it about the client. Here's the deal. Once you decide to go into business, you are not the hero anymore. Your client is the hero. And the longer that you treat yourself as the hero and you make it all about you, the longer you're going to have a business that struggles, that does not connect with your marketplace, that probably has, bad churn numbers, bad data, low profits, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to be struggling for infinitely longer than if you could just figure out, oh, maybe I should make this business about the clients that I'm called to serve. And if I do that, my clients are going to be happier. They're going to show up more. They're going to get better results because they're showing up more. Because they're getting better results, they're going to tell their friends about us. And because they're telling their friends about us, those friends are going to show up and become clients. And that amazing virtuous cycle of being great at what you do and building a business that is client-centric continues. Yay, you're rich. You got a bajillion daughters, a Lambo. Who knows? You're happy, joy. Everyone rides off into the sunset. Now, what do I mean by making your business about you instead of making it about the client? The reality is we see lots of gym owners that come to us from this sense of, oh, I used to be an athlete, I used to be a power lifter, CrossFitter, whatever. Maybe you still are, or a bodybuilder, whatever. And I just want to work with people who want to work hard. I just want to work with people that are going to be hard asses, I need people that value incredible quality coaching and yada, 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 all those different fun things. And you basically make your business boring. You make it where no one's going to enjoy showing up to go to your gym. And guess what? If people don't enjoy showing up to train with you, they're not going to keep paying top dollar to continue to train with you. They're going to go with someone who's just as good. And guess what? There are people out there that are just as good as you are, even if you're a hard ass, maybe even especially if you're an overly hard ass and can't connect with the person that you're charging money to help. They're going to go somewhere down the street that gets them the same or better result because they enjoy going there. They can make it consistent because it's something they look forward to, and your business shrivels away into nothingness. The real quick note here is just if you have a genuine give a shit to help the person on the other side of the table, if you can make it fun, make it something they look forward to showing up for, and you aren't injuring people, you've got a fighting chance. So admittedly, this takes a little bit of self-awareness. Some of you need to be less of a hard ass. You need to realize, hey, like I'm really into fitness. I was into athletics. I was a crazy, gym rat forever. Maybe not everyone that I'm trying to work with has that same philosophy, that same mindset. I need to meet them where they're at and then gently guide them along the path of becoming as into fitness and enjoying it as much as I do. Some of you need some of that. You need a little empathy. The movement quality looks worse than that, right? So you're probably hurting people. You're probably not that good of a coach. You probably don't know what you're doing, but you think you do. You might need some self-awareness. Maybe find somebody who you feel like is smarter than you in the industry to give you honest feedback about what your service looks like. But you might need to practice a little bit of self-awareness to determine where do you sit on that continuum. Are you too much of a hard ass, or do you need to improve the quality of your coaching and your movement quality and things of that nature? I'll leave you to decide that. Now, with that said, let's jump into the tactical fun. Now, a major note here, I used to be a giant proponent of, oh, you got to do all this outside the gym stuff. You got to reach out to people all the time. You got to do all these things, you got to do all this engagement. You got to do this, that, and the other. All these sort of outside the gym things to make retention work. And then I met James Pratt. This guy built his gym to over 100K a month. It was certainly 7 figures before they did any external marketing at all. So unfortunately, I don't get to claim that we had some major hand in Pratt's initial success. Now they're a client, and because their service is so good and because their systems are so good and everything else, our marketing, yes, has allowed us to put more marketing gas on that fire because their numbers, their data was already so clean. But it was really funny what happened. I actually invited him down to speak because I knew what the results were. I just didn't know how they were getting it, and asked him to talk about, how they built a service that was so impressive and so incredible. And the takeaway was literally all about the in the gym service. There was no outside the gym crazy touch points. There was no like, oh, you've got to have a book club. Oh, you got to go out, at least 2 times a month. You got to do outside the gym events. There was none of that. It was literally all about what happens between the lines. They did a world-class job and continue to do a world-class job at coaching and servicing the hell out of their clients, and that's it. So while do I absolutely think there are tactical things that you can do to add to your retention puzzle that make you maybe a little bit more remarkable and a little bit more referable? Yes, absolutely. But if you suck at what you do between the lines, none of this tactical stuff is going to matter. Tip number 1, Mike Baker. He's one of the best coaches on planet Earth. He owns a great gym up also in New Jersey, actually pretty close to James. And he's one of our coaches internally. If you work with us, you'll get to do some calls with Mike. And those are conversations with Mike are honestly some of the most valuable time that you could spend as a gym owner. But his tip is this: find a way to consistently visually show clients their wins. So he runs a combination of a small group training facility and a semi-private training facility. Yes, we know that there's the scale and there's body fat, maybe there's progress pictures, things of that nature. And those things are all good. Those are probably things that most folks are doing in some capacity. Maybe you're not doing progress pictures. Maybe you don't have a body fat scale, what have you. But you and I both know that a lot of times the scale doesn't tell the whole story. And in fact, sometimes it tells a story that is unproductive to what you're trying to accomplish and what your client's trying to accomplish as a client. And so what Mike does is him and his team measure one thing a month in their small group program, right, where it's not all custom programming. They measure one thing a month and they repeat it multiple times a month to try to create more opportunities for clients to see additional wins. So they might do an assault bike mile time, push-ups in a minute, 10 rep squat weight, things of that nature in their small group programming. What that means is that every single month, the client has something else in addition to the scale, in addition to their just general overall progress and how they're feeling, things of that nature. They have a very hard, concrete point where they can see progress from the beginning of the month to the end of the month in a given fitness area modality. Pretty cool, right? The next tip comes from a longtime friend and another member of our coaching staff. Hunter Grindle owns a great gym in Maine. He's basically running it completely passively and remotely at this point. His tip was more of a free community challenge for members. It was more tactical, kind of one of those outside the gym things or outside the standard operating of your business to kind of give you some more juice. So his idea is like, yeah, we do these 4-week challenges. There's 40 spots, 10 spots per team. And then it's just like, it's not necessarily weight loss challenges, things like that. So he might do habit-based stuff. Oh, post 10K, 10,000 steps from your tracker each day. Post 2 sweaty selfies every single week. The winning team, each member of that winning team might get a $25 gift card to a local business. So now you have an excuse to go reach out and build a relationship with local businesses in your area. The winning individual might get a credit towards membership, but there's different ways. You can base it on attendance. You can base it on steps. You can base it on habits. You could base it on a result if you wanted to. I've seen folks do this with things like bingo, things of that nature. And so it's just, again, creating excuses, creating different reasons for your members to get more engaged, show up more, and do some of the habits and things that are going to help them get the progress that they're looking for. Really cool idea there. Thank you, Hunter, for that. Third tip from one of my best amigos in the industry who's running one of the most impressive gym businesses on planet Earth. The guy started in a tiny little warehouse. Now he's got 4 locations. He owns a couple of the buildings. They just built and opened their 4th location. They're going to do at least $3 million this year, probably more. Mark Ennis. His tip, very simple, and it's telling. Be the actual best at what you do. So this guy he's got incredible retention numbers right on their adults. They're right within that 3 to 5% mark, even with Mark being completely removed from the business, right? You're talking about a large team, 25, 30 people are on Mark's team right now. And the excellence of service is permeating the entire organization, which is way more difficult to do than when you're sitting there as the manager in the gym. You're coaching 90% of the sessions. You got a part-timer. Like, you're the only source of excellence and coaching excellence. In Mark's case, this has had to permeate through his entire organization, his entire team, which is bigger than 99.9% of gym owners out there. And so on their adult data, because athletes are different because they go in season, off season, etc. Their adults, they're 3 to 5% churn in spite of charging really high premium prices. Everything's over $300 a month. And Mark is huge on data. And so the reality we talked about, it all goes back to the data. So if your churn is bad, it's not your offer, it's not your marketing company, it's not your market, oh, these people aren't, dedicated, whatever. It's you. That's the bottom line. It's a very difficult thing, right, to confront as a gym owner, because a lot of times our gyms are our babies. And if we suck at it, like, great, you can keep trying to hide it and bury your head in the sand, but the reality is the best thing you can do is look at that data, address the data head on, and then work to get better. All progress starts with the truth. Isn't there Tony Robbins or something that said that? The next thing he said is like, hey, you got to make sure your coaches genuinely give a shit. Are they engaged every second of every session? Are they coaching their asses off, or are they just being cheerleaders? He is a stickler for great programming, get his clients great results. Guess what? He knows that all of this still comes back to the car test, right? So if you think about an athlete, I call it the pillow talk test when you think about adults. So if a kid gets done with his free session and the mom picks him up, whatever, and picture this 14-year-old kid and they're just getting in. How talkative were you, with your parents when you were 14, 15, whatever it is years old? And the mom says, hey, honey, so how was the session with Mark? How was the session at Power Strength? Whatever it is. Most of the time, most kids, like, the tendency is just to be like, oh, it was okay. How do you create a session that's so good that when that kid or when that exhausted, soccer mom that's been going all day, yelled at work, yelled at home, made breakfast, the kids were ungrateful, they wanted a different breakfast, made dinner, the kids were ungrateful, they wanted a different dinner, no one's connecting, lays down her head on the pillow at the end of the night, at the end of the day, she's just ready for some shut-eye, and then hubby finally is like, oh yeah, you did that gym thing, right? Like, how was that? What's gonna make her sit up off of her pillow and go, oh my gosh, honey, it was the best thing ever, it's gonna change my life, What's gonna make her say that versus saying, oh, it was good, I'll tell you about it later, right? What does your service create in the car talk or the pillow talk test? If it doesn't pass that test, guess what? Your service, the way you're coaching, the way that you give a shit about your members still needs work. Next up, James Pratt. This is the guy that was running a 100K gym before starting any external marketing. They're probably going to do another 3 million or whatever it is this year. Hashtag Gym Member Machine. You just reach out if your service is really great and you just need help with your marketing stuff. We got your back. But he was kind enough to give us 2 major giant mushroom tips to help us make our service even better. So tip number 1, they do questionnaires on member experience. It's very simple. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you enjoy workouts, workout difficulty, trainer's competence, trainer's personality, equipment, training environment, and results. And then they ask them to elaborate. They ask their clients to elaborate on anything that's below a 9. Super simple, but something that I think we can shy away from when we're running a service and we don't want people to tell us they suck, we don't want people to tell us that we suck. Guess what? James, one of the reasons his service is probably so incredible is because he leans into feedback as a gift. Now, the second tip of this was absolutely huge. I had never heard this before, and it's freaking genius, particularly if you have a team. You've got folks that are training under you. You can't watch every single second of every single session anymore. They choose 8 members per quarter to get feedback from after every single session. The training staff does not know the 8 selected, so the training staff always has to be on their toes. And so picture, like, if your training staff knew, hey, there's members, we got 8 of them that are giving feedback after every session, and you don't know which, what client it is, what have you, know that every session that you deliver has to be on point because the leadership, boss man, boss lady, whoever it is, they're going to be reaching out to that client to figure out, hey, was that session any good? Did that session suck? What was going on in that session? Pretty stinking cool, if you ask me. Obviously, it's not super applicable if you're still the one doing every single session, but my God, as soon as you get a single trainer underneath you, that is such a valuable thing. Maybe if you're a smaller business, you don't do 8, but eventually you get multiple trainers underneath you. I cannot tell you how powerful that tip is. It was just an incredible tip. Appreciate you, James, for giving us the juice on that front. So finally, the not so grand finale, I'm gonna hit you with my biggest tips on keeping your clients around. Thing number 1, this is huge. I believe retention starts at the point of sale. There's a quote somewhere that basically says, 90% or all unhappiness is basically a result of unmet expectations. And the reality is, I think we as salespeople, right, if you're doing all the sales in your gym, etc., I think we make a huge mistake in the beginning of relationships by trying to overpromise and then underdeliver. So if you can just be honest and set realistic expectations for your members, then all of a sudden your client's not coming to you in 3 weeks when they haven't lost 30 pounds, right? Because you've already set the expectations. You've already been honest with them. The reality of the situation is, and I think this is in the guru space, this space, like you're watching this video, maybe you're thinking about joining us or whatever it is and reaching out to join the mastermind or join the agency, whatever it might be, you'll know that when you talk to us, you're not going to hear us do the things the other gurus do when they say, oh yeah, like, don't you want the Lamborghini? And yeah, we can absolutely get you 100 members in 22 seconds with no work, We're not going to play that game. We're going to tell you the truth. And the reality is, like, why is our churn in a business area where I was at this huge event in last January, and there were people on stage, these 8-figure agencies, yada, 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 that were bragging about 15% churn. The average agency, depending on where you get the data from, gets about 33% churn, right? Their average length of engagement for the average agency is 3 months. And most of that is all tied up in the contract, right? Just because you can't leave within that 3 months. We don't do long-term agreements, right? And yet, in spite of the fact that clients have an open door to leave whenever the hell they want, our churn has been below 3% in the agency space, which is unfreaking heard of for the past 2 years. Why do I think that's the case? Well, number 1, I think we work really hard to be actually the best in the world at what we do on all the different things we do for you guys. But number 2, I think a huge part of it is that we set appropriate expectations. We don't tell you that this stuff is magical. We'll tell you the truth about, Facebook markets can be hard, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the same thing happens, the same parallel can be drawn in the fitness space. The reality is 99.9% of people have a fitness journey that's going to take them longer than 30 days to get to actually accomplish their goal. And then we got into the long-term stuff and whatever else. What did that do? Well, number 1, it helps set the expectation that oh yeah, if I don't lose 50 pounds like tomorrow, I don't need to panic. It also told them the truth and made it seem different than the gyms down the street that were saying,
hey, want to do a fake free this challenge? You're going to lose 20 pounds in 32 seconds.
No. What clients do you think stayed around longer? What clients do you think trusted their trainer more? Right? The one that's telling them the truth or one that's making all the crazy promises? So retention starts at point of sale. Do not be afraid to tell the truth in your sales conversations. Yes, you can maybe lie and make more sales now, but guess what? There's a reason a lot of the guru companies that you see around that were doing all the fake free BS, none of those people own gyms anymore. Why? Because it's not a good sustainable model. It's not a good model if you want to stay in your gym and keep it profitable over the long haul. I'm looking for 10 years of fantastic profitability. It gives me that mailbox money, not something that's going to be good for 10 days or 10 weeks because you made some offer and then everyone's trying to refund because you're a slimeball scam artist that lies to all your clients. Thing number 2, one thing that I didn't see mentioned tactically on these notes, handwritten notes go a long way. So it doesn't have to be like, yeah, I think it's nice to send a handwritten letter when somebody, signs up. That's all good and well. But I think random acknowledgement of random little wins, things like Mike is saying, hey, we find stuff to track improvement, on a monthly basis, whatever it is. It might be, hey, I know you were struggling with the assault bike early, but so proud of your improvement over the past month. And obviously the 6 weeks that you've been working with us, or the 6 months that you've been working with us, so proud of you. Have a great day, whatever. Like those little notes in the middle of the client's engagement with you, I think go a long way. And then finally, number 3, don't be afraid to give people dessert. So even if you are sort of that training hard ass and you want to do really like high quality programming and you want to do all the fancy stuff, my mistake, I made the mistake early in my career where all the folks that I was talking to was like, oh,
you want to do direct core work? You idiot. You're a moron. Everything you do, these, goblet kettlebell things, your back squat, you're this, that, and the other. Every single movement you do works your core, you stupid moron.
People aren't going to die if you give them some direct core work, right? Give them dessert. Don't be afraid to give your clients dessert. Sometimes your clients want to feel a burn in their abs. Sometimes they want to feel a little bit sore, and you let them do some lunges at the end of the session to get that booty burn a little bit. Sometimes your athletes want to do a little gun show, right? Even if you say like,
oh, direct arm work is a waste of time. You get that with all your compound movements and your
pull-ups and da-da-da. Give them 5 minutes of dessert at the end of the session. Let them enjoy it. Let them get the sweat. A lot of things now I think are correctly moving towards slower quality movement, particularly for that over 40 population, right? It's less like, oh, let's just all do HIIT training, interval training, and more like, let's do quality movement and actually try to improve things. I'm all for that, 100% for it. I think it's one of the best things that could happen in the industry. However, I also think it is totally okay to let people get a little dessert at the end of the session. Let people do a little finisher that's safe and appropriate for where they're at in their fitness levels. Let people do a little gun show so that the guys can leave or the girls can leave with the pump, at the end of the session feeling like they got that, tight sleeve feeling. Everybody likes a tight sleeve feeling. Don't be afraid to do that at the end of the session. It doesn't make you a bad coach. I would argue that it makes you a good coach because it gives your people that good time feeling at the end of the session. And when they have that good time feeling when they're leaving, guess what? They're going to be more likely to come back and train more. And when they train more with you up to a certain point, they're going to get better results. They're going to tell their friends about you. They're going to tell their friends about how fun you are, how much your coaches care, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that virtuous cycle of just being fucking great at what you do continues. Is there something you think I missed? Did any of our gym owners that were kind enough to share some of their best tips with us knock it absolutely out of the park? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to know what else you want to see next. Until next time, make money, change lives. We'll see you soon.